Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Learning Sound and Synthesis Spotlight series interview. I'm here today with Paul Luna, who is an alumni from my class, Learning Sound and Synthesis. And we're we're both here live, even though Paul's has a just a picture over here that you can see. We had a little bit of a technical issue with getting Paul's webcam set up, so we improvised and we have a photograph. But Paul is here live with us on audio.
Hello.
Hello, I'm happy to have you here. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. We're going to be talking about the steps that Paul took going from being a complete beginner in the world of modular synths and feeling pretty confused by the whole thing, like how to get started, how to make a patch, how do these instruments work, and progressing through that to where he is now, where he has a lot more comfort and fluency in how modular synths work. And he's building tons of patches completely from scratch and is really kind of up and running with things. And I'm really excited about this conversation. I feel like it's really important because those feelings of confusion and overwhelm that Paul will tell you about in a moment, experienced as a beginner, are so common. And it's something that I've personally experienced and something that I know that at least a handful of you watching have probably felt at some point, or maybe are feeling right now. So we're really looking forward to digging into this and getting a little bit of insight into Paul's experience, just kind of learning the world of modular synths. So first of all, welcome, Paul. Can you start us off with a quick introduction to who you are and maybe what kind of music you like to make?
Hi. As Sarah eloquently put it, my name is Paul Luna. Let's see. Where do I begin? Oh, jeez. Well, I like to describe my music more as like generative, experimental, and just making noise. Generally
Sure.
speaking, yeah. Let's see. My first introduction to patching was my first synthesizer, which was an Arturia Micro Brute, because the Micro
Mm-hmm.
Freak was released a couple years ago. But anyways, I kind of like did on that. And eventually, I worked my way into software, VSTs, and just playing around. And I noticed a lot of emulations of modular synthesizers out there from Arturia and Frozen Wasteland, and before falling out discovering the VCV rack. And I tried to experiment with that, and it seemed pretty straightforward as far as the Arturia, because it was on the Analog Lab series, so they already had presets, and you really couldn't do much with it. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to see a lot of videos on modular synthesizers because I was researching whether or not I wanted to do it, because it was something that fascinated me as a child. And it wasn't until in my late 30s I decided to take a plunge and get into it. Now, since I couldn't afford the physical modules like most people who get into this area of music, I said, well, I don't want to try out the software version to see if I actually like it. And I kind of watched some tutorial videos that were not at all clear, and I tried to experiment. I was just lost. And then I said, well, maybe the physical difference is different, because I made a trip to go all the way down to Perfect Circuit, which is about 4 hours from where I live, and just try it out, figure it out. And I still had the same confusion. And I went there to pick up some other synthesizers I bought that were not modular related, but I just wanted to try to see if there was a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while I was like, you know what, I don't like this. I don't know what I'm doing. And kind of gave up on it for a few months. And then I started asking questions. Well, maybe I just don't know how to use it. So it'll help me make up my mind about whether or not I want to go into it. So I stumbled upon your course, you know, and let's see, trying to think here. This was like a few years back.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I love the sound. I want to get into it, but the learning curve was pretty steep at that time for me because I didn't understand signal flow or anything like that. Because these resources are not readily available, like just playing piano or for such. Because there's not a lot of people out there who play this. And I remember watching make video by Make Noise when they say, well, we can't go to scale because ukuleles outsell modular, and so there's not as many people who know how to use these systems out there. And then of course, I think one of the videos they brought you in, and then you brought up that, and so I looked into it and then decided to join the course and all that.
So thanks for walking us through that. I think those feelings, that kind of entry point into modular is something that's probably more common than people realize. So if you're someone who's watching this and you're kind of curious about getting started with this and you're feeling just like lost, just know that it's normal. It's a big topic to get into. And you're more than capable. I think for a lot of people, if you have no background in music or in synthesis or in any of these topics, it can feel just like a huge mountain to climb. And often what I've found with people like Paul is you're a perfect example of this, is that once you're given, kind of a step-by-step approach to follow and things are broken down for you into small pieces, you just absolutely take off and things start to click pretty quickly. So can you walk us through maybe what your experience was like just starting to put the pieces together?
Well, yes, it took a lot of rewatching the lesson videos over and over because it didn't sink in at first. I was going step by step, and then I just kind of like want to improvise a way that I could understand it. So which means you're going to have to trial and error is basically what you're going to have to do, and you have to have patience just to get just baby steps basically. And you can't expect to get the sound that you're looking for right away. It will take a lot of time, a lot of error. And I remember I had a lot of time to experiment when I got into a car accident. And it's just when I had the time just to focus on that, because I was out of work for about a month, 2 months, and I was just like working on VCD rec almost every day up to 8 hours because I had the time. So that's why I was able to progress at the level that I currently at, whatever that is, but to where I am now. And it just takes time, and you just like rinse and repeat over and over, and you feel frustrated. That's just part of the journey, and then eventually you'll figure out a path for you to, since modular is open-ended,
right,
to get the systems to work.
Right. Yeah, it's such a personalized approach. Once you start to understand sort of the fundamentals of how signal flow works, you start to realize I can kind of do whatever I want to do with this. And that's where it really starts to get exciting because you can do your own thing. Something I just want to kind of say again and highlight, Paul, that you just said is that you watched a lot of the course videos over and over and over again. And that's actually amazing. It can be tempting to like binge watch through things or to feel somehow like you're failing if you don't get something the first time. Right. And to feel like you're taking a step backwards if you have to go over something again. But it's so great. It's such a great example that you just went over things as many times as you needed. And that's fine.
Well, I think it's good that you understand that you do need a lot of time to really look into this, and that there's no time limit on completing the courses. That if it takes you 2-3 years, okay, we still got the information right there. And occasionally I forget some stuff, and I'll reference back to the videos and see what I can do with different approaches on particular modules, the basic modules. So there are some really esoteric modules out there that you have to go in and pretty much figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Something else, Paul, that I would love for you to talk a little bit about that I've been seeing you do over the last year or longer is just making making tons of patches and learning by doing. And this is something that I think is really, really valuable. It's like you're not only studying and watching those videos over and over again, but you're taking those ideas and you're making, making things with them. Sometimes it's a piece of music. Other times it's just kind of an idea that you're trying out. Can you tell us a little more about that process and why it's been helpful for you?
Yes. Well, I try to limit how many modules I use. Also has to do with the CPU limitations of my computer. And so I don't really do those really big bombastic patches that you'll see on YouTube from VCB Rack and others, strictly due to limitations. And I'm a little ADD. I have a little hard time keeping track of the modules. So I find like around 13 modules work for me. And sometimes I will go a little bit further than that. But like I said, it's just like I have to figure out how to get it to work within some limitations.
Sure.
And, sometimes I'll like research an obscure module. Like, for example, the boss fight module. I'm the only one who has videos with that module out there on YouTube land, and been pretty much the only person utilizing the module. I know it's an acquired taste. Let's be honest, that's a real acquired taste. I even talked to one of your do you refer to as instructor or alumni, Raina?
Yeah, Arena, yeah, part of the
Yeah.
LSS community. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. And, it wasn't her favorite, but, that's why I basically said you have to go with some real obscure, esoteric modules to figure them out.
I think that's sort of that's one of the awesome things about modular is that what it's exciting to you and what works for you is up to you. And there's such a huge range of tools out there. And in VCV Rack alone, thousands and thousands of modules. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just a really unique opportunity to, find your own kind of voice and your own set of tools that are exciting to you. Mm-hmm. So speaking of your YouTube channel, I just want to share a link. Just give me 1 second here so that if anyone's curious, you can check this out. I mentioned that Paul has been making a lot of patches and sharing them. And these are really, really cool to check out and, learn from and kind of see what's going on, what kind of modules are being used and how they're being patched together. You've got like hundreds of patches up here, right, Paul?
Yeah. And sometimes I do share the patches on the community forum and on for anyone who wants to like play around with, make music, whatever they want, or like the same idea you guys with the shared system is awesome. The other reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that. I think that's really helpful as well. So I'm curious, what would you offer? Like, what kind of advice or encouragement would you offer to someone who's maybe brand new to the world of modular, like you were a couple of years ago, and is feeling kind of confused and just like unsure if they're capable of doing this?
Well, I know this is going to sound weird, but confusion is normal in this niche. You're going to get confused, but if you're willing to take the time and effort to find out how to use the modules, just start out with the basic signal flow, oscillator, sound source, mixers, and then sequencer. Start off with that, and then gradually add on effects. And sometimes it's just a good idea when you're building the patch to listen to it without effects and make adjustments like that, and then add the effects on and whatever process or utility modules you want to use. It's just go by piece by piece by piece. And of course, do reference the video series, of course, and also look at what other people are doing. Great.
Yeah, I love what you said. Confusion is normal. It's kind of funny if you think a little bit about it. Why would we assume that when we're getting into something brand new that we wouldn't be confused, right? It's brand new, it's technical, there's all kinds of terms. So confusion is normal. It's a sign that you're expanding your knowledge. It's a sign that you're doing something that is new to you. That's awesome. So you can think of the confusion as like, oh man, I don't get it. I'm not cut out for this. Or you can think of the confusion as like, cool, I'm going in a direction that is, new, and I'm going to learn a lot.
Yeah, especially since, all our lives, musical instruments tend to be like string or physical, where, it's more than like, the layout is a little bit more clear on a guitar where you have to physically interact and think of a pattern. Whereas modular, it's not always so clear because it's in module form, and the cables to us doesn't seem as natural as it, say using our fingers or sticks or a more physical medium. That's part of the reason why modular kind of has like this steep learning curve, because you have to rethink how you play an instrument.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting observation, especially when you're putting together your own modular synth. You're kind of building your own instrument, right? So you can really rethink what an instrument even is and how you want it to work. How do you want it to sound? How do you want it to respond to you or not? Right?
Yeah,
So there's a lot of really interesting questions.
And this is where that trial and error comes into play. Like, yeah, you're going to have to do the work. It's not going to automatically come.
Right. Right. But it's okay to explore and try things and not always know exactly what you're doing too. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, that's how I approach, because I didn't really know what I was doing. It's like, okay, let's just see if this works. Twist the knob here, this cable here. And the nice thing about VCV rack is if something's not going to work, like you put output into an output, you just can't do it, and you can't fry your system. So this is a good place to start if you're thinking about getting into modular and not spend thousands of dollars and patch it wrong and fry your system up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always something that I've found really great about VCV rack is you can't really break it. The worst that will happen if you really overload is that it might crash, but that's also okay.
Oh yeah.
Right? It actually prevents.
Oh yeah,
like,
that will happen. That's not a if, it will happen.
But and to your point.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And then, there are certain modules that may be a little buggy and it'll crash VCV rack, but just choose another module if that happens.
Yeah. And to your point, Paul, it's not, you don't have to worry as you're learning, you don't have to worry about patching something incorrectly or any of that, because the software actually helps you. It will prevent you from making a patch that, or a connection that doesn't work, like an output to output.
Although go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was about to say that there are some modules that you can patch in a weird way, like output to output, but they're so rare and expensive. It's just keep it simple.
Right. It's a good rule of thumb as you're learning to think about patching from an output to an input, just to kind of make a viable connection, for sure. So I just want to take a moment to let people know if this getting into modular synthesis is something that you're interested in, if you are feeling like you would really benefit from having a step-by-step program, some support, some guidance to help you work through that initial learning curve so that you know exactly what all of the fundamental pieces are, how they work, and what to focus on in what order. My class, Learning Sound and Synthesis, might be a really great fit for you. And I'm going to go ahead and just leave a link in the chat here for folks who are curious to the Learning Sound and Synthesis waitlist. For those of you who don't know what Learning Sound and Synthesis is, it is my online modular synthesis and sound design class. And I run it 2 times a year. And the next cohort is opening up actually next month in February, kind of halfway through the month. So the best thing to do if you're curious and you want to learn more is put your name and email into the waitlist here, soundandsynthesis.com. And that just means you're going to be the first notified when the doors open up. If you have questions about whether it's the right fit for you or anything like that, what's included in the course, anything like that, you can go ahead and just send me a DM anytime, and I'm happy to chat more. So Paul, before we wrap up, I want to just go back over to you. Is there anything else that you want to offer to someone who's learning modular, or anything else that you want to say about your own journey?
Well, it goes without saying that with any instrument, you're going to need patience to get to find a way to utilize any instrument. Patience is really key. And don't give up if you get a little frustrated or angry. Just walk away for a few minutes or maybe a day and then go right back to it and try again. Because, like I said, trial and error is a big part of this. And, people before this course existed, imagine how long it took to figure out how to get the systems to work. All that without an engineering background.
Right. Yeah, I think this is so valuable, just such a good perspective. Some of the things you've said that I want to echo and highlight one more time. Confusion is normal. It's just part of the process. The best way to get good at something is to get comfortable with kind of living in that confusion and doing it anyway, right? Paul, you said don't give up if you get frustrated. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of repetition. Maybe you've got to watch the video again. Maybe you've got to try another patch on your own again, but it will click. I have worked with enough students now who have started from the very beginning to be able to say confidently that in time and with that patience that Paul speaks of, which is so valuable, it will absolutely happen for you too. That much I know for sure. Any final parting words?
No, not at this point.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thanks, Paul, for sharing your story. I think it's really inspiring just to hear you talk through it in kind of such an open way, especially all the stuff about being a beginner and being overwhelmed at first. It's just so much more universal than I think people think. Go ahead and check out Paul's YouTube channel. Listen to some of those awesome patches. There's lots there. And any other further questions, you know how to reach me. Send me a DM anytime, and I'm happy to talk more. So
and
Paul,
I'm on the board frequently, so you can see me there if you're there.
Yep. So folks who are in the Learning Sound and Synthesis community, Paul just mentioned, he's in the community often, so posting patches. So stay tuned. There will be more of those coming, I'm sure. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great week ahead, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye for now.